Alrighty folks, thanks for clicking on today's video. James Cards FC here, and it is Merlin time. It's my favorite time of the year. Topps Merlin Chrome has just released. It's my favorite product, and today I'm going to be talking about the rookies in the set, which is really the big focus of the Merlin product. If you're new to the channel, we talk about the financial side of the soccer card market, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started walking you through the rookies in this newest Merlin set. So, let's go ahead and get started with the reasons why I love the Merlin product and why it's my favorite product of the year. So, I put out a video about this last year, but if you're new, the reason that Merlin is my favorite product of the year is because Merlin has a history of including what I'll call exclusive rookies that are only available in the Merlin set or are only available in Merlin and then maybe one or two other sets. Merlin just has a history of picking out a list of 10 to 20 rookies that don't appear in a lot of the other products during the release year. So this is a big unique case in Ultra Modern because it gives these cards upside due to the supply and demand equation that gets thrown out of whack if they do something good. The obvious example would be to talk about a guy like Gavi, who is in literally every single set, or Garnacho, who is in literally every single set. He has thousands and thousands of different rookie cards out there, but when you look at a guy in the past like Matthias Tell, for example, he only had the Merlin set for his rookie year, and so he had a very small amount of cards, and so those cards got very, very expensive. If you go back the year prior with Goncalo Ramos, when he had his big performance for Portugal at the World Cup, he just didn't have a lot of rookie cards out there, so they really exploded in price when he scored the hat trick during the knockout phase, and that wouldn't have been as dramatic if he had so many other sets out there. So those are just a couple of the past examples from previous years, and today we'll be taking a look at the top exclusive rookies from this year's edition of the set to try and see if there might be a hidden gem that has that sort of volatility increase potential just based on the supply-demand factors of them having so few cards in comparison to all of their other options and competitors in this class. So let's go ahead and talk about the tiers list for the Merlin exclusive rookies. Now, this tiers list is not based on my personal opinion. I'm going to try and leave my personal opinions out of it. This is just based on what people have paid for their player auction spots in a case break on eBay. I just picked a random case break. I think it was the second one that was ever run on eBay for this product, and so it gives you a nice baseline of how people are paying for these individual players, at least on release day. So, the tiers list split out based on their prices would be in S tier, it's just Arda Guler. In A tier, you have 4 players. You have Simon Adingra, you have Divin Mubama, you have Victor Boniface, and you have Elise Ben Sigur. And then in the B tier, you just have one player, and that is Hwangyu Oh from Celtic. And then in the C tier, you have a guy whose name I cannot pronounce at all, but he's an attacking midfielder from AC Milan. Or not AC Milan, my goodness. He plays for AS Monaco. Then you have Alex Lowry, and then you have Evan Guisan as the final player in the C tier. Another reason why I like Merlin so much is it gives me an opportunity to butcher a bunch of different names that I have never seen before, and this year is no exception. So here's the tiers list of the players based on how they're being paid for, at least on release day. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. I'll be walking through each player's statistics in later slides, but if you want to review this tiers list later, here it is, and we're going to go through each of the individual players in a little bit more detail, starting now. So let's talk about the C tier. I would rate these guys as lottery tickets, just in my personal opinion. These are the cheaper of the rookies. There are more rookies in this set than just these, but a lot of them play more defensive positions in general, either center back, left back, or right back, or more of a holding midfield position. And I really wanted to only focus on the attacking players that were a bit more expensive. So in the C tier for the lottery tickets, we have Magnus, the guy whose name I pronounced the worst out of everybody in this checklist. He is a 21-year-old attacking midfielder that is French and is playing in League 1 or Ligue 1 for AS Monaco. He had 1 goal in 13 matches this past season, all at the top tier level of Ligue 1, so no youth stats there, but he did have 1 goal in 13 matches in the top flight league. Next to him, you have Alex Lowry. He is a 20-year-old attacking midfielder. He is Scottish, and he plays in the Scottish Premiership. He had 10 goals in 18 matches last season, but the vast majority of those came in the lower division of the Scottish Premiership, the more youth league version of it. I'm not sure how the Scottish Pyramid is set up, but he did not score those goals in the top flight league. Then next to him, you have Evan Guisson. He is a 22-year-old center forward that is French, and he also plays in Ligue 1. He had 5 goals in 44 matches this past season, so he played a lot of matches at the top flight level. Didn't score that much, but the fact that he's a young center forward that already has a lot of matches in Ligue 1 is usually a pretty good sign. Then in the B tier, we have the Lottery Ticket Plus. This is a guy that I would qualify as a lottery ticket, but he has some other bonus things going for him that I think contribute to his a bit higher price than the traditional lottery tickets. So, first of all, he has a good hobby nationality. And we'll get into his stats down here. He's a 22-year-old center forward. He plays for South Korea, and he's in the Scottish Premiership playing for Celtic. He had 7 goals in 21 matches this past season, so he's a guy that you could really speculate on in terms of he plays for the top club or one of the top clubs in the Scottish Premiership. He had a good amount of goals last season. He has a good hobby nationality. The Asian market is really good for soccer cards, and they don't have a lot of really top tier players. So if he ends up being a top tier player, it makes a lot of sense that his cards would be highly valued. But at the same time, he's still a lottery ticket, of course, and he got injured in the preseason for Celtic, and he's going to be out for at least the first 6 weeks of the season, so it's possible he just sort of fades back and somebody takes his place in the starting 11, if he was even going to be in the starting 11. So there's instantly some risk there, but he has some decent things going on in terms of his nationality and the club he plays for, so a few things I think I personally like more and the market personally likes more about O than the other lottery tickets that we just mentioned. That's why he lands in the B tier in terms of prices, at least in my opinion from what I'm gathering. Then we'll move into the A tier, which would be the main targets in terms of rookies from this set. On the left-hand side, you have Victor Boniface from Nigeria and now the Bundesliga, but he previously played for Union. Union is in Belgium, I believe. Union in Belgium because he previously played for the same club as Simon Adringa. I think that's how you pronounce his name, the Brighton forward that we'll be talking about in a bit. But yeah, he played for Union this past season in the Europa League, and now he is going to play for Bayern Leverkusen this season. So he's a 22-year-old center forward. Nigeria and Bundesliga are the nationality plus league combo, and he had a lot of goals, 22 goals in 55 matches last season, all of that coming at the top level in Belgium. I believe that's where Union plays. Then next to him, you have Elise Ben Seguir. He is an 18-year-old attacking midfielder that plays for Monaco. He is French, and of course, Monaco plays in Ligue 1. He scored 4 goals in 23 matches last season, and he had a few assists to go with that. He's an attacking midfielder, so he's going to have more assists to go along with those 4 goals. He's very young. He just turned 18, so he'll be 18 through the rest of this calendar year. And so he'll be 19, and I think it's in early 2024 that he would end up being 19. So he's 18, and he's already playing a lot of matches for one of the better clubs in the Ligue 1. So those are good signs. You would like to see some higher goal numbers, but he's definitely one that I could see people speculating on, and the prices being paid, at least on release day, are people that are gambling on that sort of age versus level versus potential to score goals equation. And the last 2 of the main targets are going to be starting with Simon Adingra. He previously played for Union along with Boniface on the previous slide. He's a 21-year-old left wing. He is from the nationality of Ivory Coast, and he plays now in the Premier League for Brighton. He was actually on loan at Union last season, and now he's back at Brighton. And it was interesting watching the most recent Brighton match I believe this was this past Sunday. They were playing against Luton Town. He came on off the bench. He was one of the first 2 options off the bench for Brighton, and I had never heard of him before. And I started poking around to see if he had any cards. He had no cards, but I saw he was going to be in the Merlin set, so I got a little bit excited. But then he scored a goal, and now everyone in the hobby that is deep in the hobby already knows who he is, and he's now the second most expensive player in the checklist. So any sort of hype versus expectations is not really there anymore, in my opinion. There's now expectations being placed on him because he looks to be part of the rotation for Brighton this season, when I don't think a few weeks ago anyone really knew who he was. But with all that out of the way, he had 15 goals in 51 matches for Union this past season. I believe he also had 15 assists, so he was very heavily involved in goal creation for Union. And now he's at Brighton, and Brighton has a million different young forwards to throw at different lineup rosters and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how much playing time he does get. But the fact that he came off the bench, I think it was second this past Sunday in their first match, might indicate that Brighton really does like him and is going to give him a good amount of minutes this season. Next to him, you have Divin Mubama. He is the third most expensive player on release for this set. He is an 18-year-old center forward that is owned by West Ham United. He is English and he plays in the Premier League. He had 27 goals in 39 matches this past season, but all of those goals came at the lower Premier League levels. He has not scored 27 goals in the Premier League. I don't even think he's scored one goal in the Premier League yet. He might have scored one in the Europa League, but I don't think he's scored a Premier League goal yet. That might change this season. This is just a age versus level versus possible playing time opportunity speculation game going on. The fact that he scored a lot of goals in Youth League is really cool in my opinion, because I really like guys that no matter what level they're at, if they're scoring goals, I like it because you need guys to put the ball in the back of the net in order for them to get hobby attention, and Divin has definitely done that at the lower levels, but whether that translates to the Premier League or not, especially at such a young age, is yet to be seen, but people are gambling on that sort of age versus level speculation with him. And lastly, alone in the S tier, all by himself, is Arda Guler. Everybody that's watching this video is probably already aware of this kid and how talented he is and how much hype there is around him. And if you haven't watched him play, you've probably at least heard about him on social media a bit. There is a lot of hype around Arda Guler. He is an 18-year-old attacking midfielder that is going to represent Turkey at the international level, and he is going to play in La Liga with Real Madrid this season. He was previously with Fenerbahce in the Turkish league and played in some European tournament matches, and so there's some good highlight tape out there on him. He actually, from a goal scoring level, didn't produce that many goals. He actually didn't produce that many minutes overall, but he was just a young teenager in the Turkish league. He had 6 goals in 35 matches, and the reason there's so much hype on him is because Real Madrid went out and purchased him from Turkey, and he was transferred for a lot of money, and there's a lot of hype around him in terms of his technical ability, so there's a lot of speculation about him possibly being another one of the superstar players for this next generation of Real Madrid. So there's all that going on with Arda Guler, and this is his only rookie card set, so these are going to be his only rookie cards, at least for the United States mainstream releases. He is also in some Turkish league sets, but those have not been approved, at least as of my knowledge, to be graded by PSA, and if PSA doesn't grade them, I'm not going to consider them, because historically, if a card is not able to be graded by PSA, its upside is extremely limited because it's not seen as a real card, whether you like it or not. So this will be his true mainstream rookie card, unless the Fenerbahce stuff ends up getting graded by PSA, but that's a whole nother issue. And even if it is, I think this will be the most sought after card for Arda Guler. The issue with him is that he's going to be out for 6+ weeks. He has a bigger injury than one of the previous players I mentioned. Is the other player that's nursing an injury right now, but Arda Guler's injury is much more serious. He's going to be out until at least the end of October, I believe was the initial report, which is really unfortunate because according to reports, he was playing very well in Real Madrid's preseason camps, and he might have been able to make the starting rotation, but now that he's had this injury, we're not really sure when he's going to come back or how good he's going to look immediately when he comes back. So it could be a while before we see him regain that sort of form he might have had in the preseason. So despite all that, his prices are still going to be very high because there's so much speculation on him, and the fact that these are going to be his only rookie cards. I was looking at some initial sales data, and his base rookie cards, no numbers, no parallels, just the base cards, were already selling for $10. Doesn't make any sense because nobody's base Merlin cards, non-numbered and all that sort of stuff, sell for $10 no matter which player you look at. So his stuff is extremely hyped. So if you're looking to get into Guler, it's probably going to be best to wait a few weeks, as with any of these guys in new product and new releases. Waiting 4 to 6 weeks for the prices to calm down and the FOMO to subside a bit usually makes the most sense on these players. But unfortunately, if you're going to be one of those big ballers that wants Guler's golds or oranges or reds or superfractor one-of-ones, it could be pretty tough because they won't come to market all that often, so you might just be paying whatever the market rate is at the given time if you want those specific high-end cards. But there could be an interesting opportunity with Guler being out for so long. There's one of two scenarios. One scenario is either his prices stay high because there's so much speculation on him that people don't care that he's injured, so they're still putting that sort of speculation hype on him, or he is injured and stays out for such a long time that people start to forget about him, or other players from this set start to shine more and take some of the shine away from Guler. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with his injury status, but wrapping it all together, he's by far the most expensive player in this product. He probably will be the most expensive rookie in this product and maybe any product throughout the year just due to supply and demand factors. So definitely keep your eye on Guler stuff if you're interested in buying it. Like I said, I would probably wait the 4 to 6 weeks, maybe figure out what's going on with his injury, and then sort of go from there and wait to see if the prices calm down at all. And with that, we'll go into the conclusion here really quickly. While these players have fundamentals in their favor in terms of supply and demand, they do still need to perform. As you can see here, this is the list of 2021/2022 Merlin exclusive rookies that I went over last season. And next to each of their names, I put a plus or a minus if they went up in price after release day or down in price after release day. And you can go down the list and see that of the top 10 players in terms of prices being paid, only one of them is actually up over the past season, and it is Ryan Cherky, and he's actually up quite a bit. But the rest of these guys are all down, and in some cases down a lot. Nobody talks about Dane Scarlett anymore. Nobody talks about Luca Romero, Harvey Vale, who is that? And you can go through the list and see that none of those guys lived up to even the minor expectations they had. So yeah, of the 10 most expensive exclusive rookies on release day last year, 9 of them are down in price. So this is a risky proposition because there are so few cards of these guys. The expectations that are built into them, even if they're small, can feel like a lot just because there's not that many cards of them out there. But with that being said, if one of the exclusive rookies in this year's checklist outperforms their expectations, no matter how high they are, if they outperform them because of supply and demand, they could see some big increases. And with that, I will tell you guys to have fun and happy gambling, because that's exactly what this is. We're talking about a list of 9 or 10 players that we know very, very little about that will have some pretty high prices just due to supply and demand factors, and you're just hoping that the one that you decide to purchase ends up outperforming their expectations, so you can see that sort of price increase on a player that you probably knew nothing about before this video came out. So with all that out of the way, I thank you guys so much for watching this video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Enjoy chasing all the Merlin exclusive rookies. This is my favorite product of the year, and I will definitely be tuned in over the next few weeks to see how their prices are doing.